Hello, my name is Humano IT. Today we will focus on how to undervolt and optimize your CPU with the Intel XTU app. I should mention that this is not my preferred way to do these things, since I strongly believe that throttle stop is a much more advanced utility. Since the Intel XTU app is much more popular than throttle stop, I feel that I should do a video about it for you guys. So let's start. Once you open the program, you will be greeted with the system infos. You will have an overview of your system and your specs. I have the 12th gen Intel Core i9-12900HK with the GeForce RTX 3080 Ti laptop and 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM. So on the top right corner, you have different entries. Stop monitors means that, as the name implies, you can stop your monitoring of these different parameters. Monitoring, on the other hand, shows only the monitoring without having all the different settings listed here. This is useful when running benchmarks, and it helps you seeing and visualizing your stats as temperature, core voltage, CPU utilization, and also max core frequency. The next one is settings. So by checking this box, you will disable the automatic update notifications. If you want to check for updates, click here. And as you can see, my XTU is up to date as of 29th of July of 2022. So the next option is advanced option. Intel may collect information about how you use your system and software to provide you the best products, services, and experience possible. The information collected is not used to identify or contact you. You can change the settings at any time in the advanced tab in settings dialog. By checking this box, you will join the Intel product improvement program, which means that if you will encounter any given problem with the Intel XTU, or your PC crashes or freezes without any apparent reason, Intel will actually collect data and try to, maybe in future, they will use this data to improve their program. So restore tuning after reboot means that if you change any settings in the advanced tuning window, the settings will remain stored after reboot. By unchecking this box, every change you have applied will be deleted after rebooting your computer. Disable logging. If you check this box, you won't have any logging data. So theme, you can change your theme between light and dark. I like the dark one. Active power plan, high performance mode is the same as selecting the one in Windows. This one here, as well as the one in Alienware Command Center. Still max step size. I honestly don't know what this is. And since I don't know what it is, I leave it battery monitoring. I don't need this. So I close the settings. help. If you want to read the manual, you can do this by clicking help, and you can really geek out on the Intel XTU. Report an issue. If you have any issues with your Intel XTU, you can click here and you will be directed to the intel.com. I actually disabled my Wi-Fi since I believe, I'm not 100% sure, that I get better benchmark scores with disabled Wi-Fi. Well, I believe it's somewhere logical, because if you don't have your Wi-Fi connected, or you are connected to your internet, there won't be any background programs running which uses your internet. But maybe I'm talking out of my but that's how it is. So, okay. I believe we should go to the monitoring window. I try to explain this as easy as possible. This is a graph. With this graph, you can visually comprehend what is happening with your CPU. You see different colors represent different things. For example, these purple lines here represent your package temperature. Now, package means your mean temperature of your CPU. I should say your overall temperature of your CPU. It doesn't mean your core temperatures, it means your whole generalistic temperature of your CPU. It's like saying, for example, that in Holland you have 25 degrees Celsius on overall, and this would be your package temperature, the overall temperature of Holland. And your core temperatures, which are more specific, would be, for example, if we want to use the same analogy, would be, for example, the temperature in Amsterdam. So it's much more specific. The higher your graph is, they are called spikes, the higher is also the temperature. As you can see, for example, if I hover over it, it will appear a blue line, and this blue line will tell you exactly at which position your graph is at. For example, if I hover over this point here down, it will say that your package temperature was really low at 35 degrees Celsius. Now, if I go here to this max point, to this high point, it will show a package temperature of 50 C, which isn't that much because my PC is idling at this point. The same principle goes for the other three entries. And as you might have noticed, your CPU utilization goes hand in hand with your package temperature. This means that the higher, or I should say the more you use your CPU, the higher your temperatures will be. Of course, it's the same as when you're doing some sports. If you play football or any kinds of sports or do any activity, the harder you do things, the more you're sweating, the more your temperature goes up. And sweating is like a bodily reaction to cool off your body. Sweat helps the body to transfer your inner heat to your outer atmosphere. And the same principle goes for your CPU. The more it works, the higher are the temperatures. Friction and work creates a byproduct, which is called temperature. Now, if we want more entries, we can actually go to this wrench here, click on it, and we can select what we want to see. For example, I want to know if my CPU thermal throttles. You see, now I will have a new entry. Since my CPU isn't throttling right now, you will see a flat line. If my CPU will throttle, you will see a spike up. Sorry, if I want to know really precisely what temperature has which core, I can select it here. So since this is a 12th gen Intel CPU, I have two types of cores, a P core, performance core, and E cores, efficiency cores. So I will select every one of the cores. So I will have now 14 cores. So on the other hand, if I have too much data, it will be too confusing. That's why I personally don't really like this graph. But that's how Intel XTU works. Yes, that's it. So on the right side, we have, I should say, generalization on what's happening here on the left side. For example, you see here CPU utilization is the same as here, of course, and this is more compact and more easy for the eye. That's why I mostly like this side. And we can actually customize also the right side by clicking this wrench. We can add or delete entries. Let's do the same as on the left side. Okay, close. Now we have all core temperatures. So, and this was a brief explanation on what's going on the monitoring window. If we click on show all, we will have the normal view. Okay, now let's go to the left side and go to the basic tuning entry. So, and this basic tuning function lets you overclock your CPU very, very easily. But the flip side of this is that it's really not specific in the way how Intel XTU is doing this. What I mean by that is you will not have any specific voltage or wattage. It will be everything automatically done by the Intel XTU, which I don't really like. That's why I've never ever ever used this function. Never. And I will never do this in the future too. That's why I will skip it. But for you guys, I will do this. Let's run the XTU2 benchmark to get a baseline. Let's go. So the system is running very well. If I'm not mistaken, my throttle stop settings have been transferred to the Intel XTU. And so I have a XTU2 score of 6740. I don't really know what that means, if it's good or not, because I never have run this benchmark before. So, and I believe by choosing my performance core ratio either to the left or to the right, meaning decreasing or increasing my core ratio, will either decrease or increase my performance. I will not do that because I don't really know what the Intel XTU is doing behind the scenes to reach my desired settings. That's why I will not play with this any further. So, and that's the reason why we will skip to the advanced tuning window. And yes, my suspicion was right, which is a good thing. My stable throttle stop settings have been transferred to the Intel XTU, which I said is a very good thing because these settings run very well with throttle stop. Let's see how they will run with the Intel XTU. The core voltage mode is adaptive. This means that the core voltage is not fixed. It changes depending on your given workload or your desired workload. How do you know that? Because you can actually see this here, that the core voltage is always changing depending on your workload. You can see this here or here on the right side. Yes, you can change it here, but this is too dangerous for me. It's like gambling. You never know if you hit the right core voltage. Even if you're getting very closely, you can never be sure to have the right voltage. And even if you miss your optimum core voltage by, let's say, 10 millivolts, your PC will crash. That's why I let the CPU choose the right voltage. Your core voltage offset. Whatever core voltage your CPU demands and uses to run stable at each given task or performance demand, this amount will be subtracted from your core voltage. For example, now your core voltage is 1145. At that given time, when your core voltage was at 1145, your core voltage was actually only 1000 millivolts, because this amount will be subtracted from your actual real-time core voltage. By doing this, you can decrease your temperatures dramatically. Intel Turbo Boost technology. Yeah, as the name implies, your CPU will boost up to 5 GHz when and if desired. Processor Core IC Max has actually to be at unlimited, so I click apply. So AVX2 ratio offset. This means if you're running an AVX instruction-based program, you can set an offset. The amount you choose here will be subtracted from your core ratio multiplier. Let's say, for example, you choose an AVX offset of 4 with a performance core ratio of 44. If you, for example, run a program which uses the AVX2 instruction set, your performance core ratio multiplier will actually run at 40 times. This amount will be subtracted from this amount. I don't use this, so it's 0. AVX2 voltage guard band scale factors, since I don't use the settings, I disregard this one. Turbo boost short power max enable, it's your PL2 enable. So I set both PL1 and PL2 to 125 watts. Turbo boost power time window should be at the maximum. And we want to definitely disable overclocking thermal velocity boost. And if you want to know what it is, hover over here. When enabled, the processor can reach a specific package ratio when below the specific temperature. If above the specified temperature, then the corresponding frequency ratio is reduced by the specified offset. If your CPU is always running on the harder side, your CPU will actually be throttled if this one is enabled. If it's disabled, your CPU will always try to run at full speed. These are the same settings as in throttle stop, which have served me beautifully. That's why I will use the same one here. So 44, 44, 36, 36. Everything default with a voltage offset of minus 146 millivolt. Or I should say 0.146 volts. We want a processor cache ratio of 85, which is the maximum. In short terms, your processor cache ratio will run at the maximum possible speed. We want the cache voltage to be default since we don't know how many voltage your cache requires. We set it to default. Yes, minus 146, 146. We don't need this per point voltage offset. This is like setting specific voltages at specific ratio multipliers. For example, you can use a specific voltage offset when your CPU reaches a multiplier of 42 and such and so on. System agent voltage will be set automatically by your CPU. We don't want to play around with this. Since we had already the right settings, we won't change anything. Let's go to the next setting, VF curve. I have tried to use this, but somehow my PC always crashed after trying this out. This should be like a graph where your voltage will be plotted depending on your workload. So you can actually see your voltages in a visual representation. By seeing your voltages, how they perform at each task, you can actually pinpoint the right voltage for over or underclocking. This should be easy, but as I said, I have tried it and it didn't work for me. That's why I leave it as it is. We can actually try this. My speculations were right. My computer crashed. So let's do this all over again. Oh guys, I'm so sorry for this, but this is why I hate Intel XTU. Or as a matter of fact, let's try to open throttle stop. First of all, let's kill the Intel XTU. Let's kill both. Let's open throttle stop, because throttle stop has always the right settings. Okay, Let's now open the Intel XTU and let's hope for the best. And honestly, I'm not very keen to do all of this from the beginning. Oh, we are lucky. I should play the lottery today. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Good. The settings are all right. So, and let's save this now. So let's name it throttle stop settings 44. Save. Bang! We have it. But we have to kill throttle stop. Otherwise, the CPU will use throttle stop instead of the Intel XTU. Let's kill it. Good. And I hope this time nothing will throttle. Oh yeah, power limit throttle, that's good. This is our PL1 and PL2. It's power limit throttling to 125 watts. This looks very good. Oh, no thermal throttling, you see? Nothing is red. I'm a little bit impressed, I have to admit. Amazing. I believe 19,000-ish. 1850, 86. Let's run it again. Yeah, what should I say? It looks good, yes. We have steady 4.3 gigahertz on all cores, on all P cores. Package temperature, your mean temperature is at 91 C. $18,597. So I feel like we can go a little bit higher with our TDP, with the PL1 and PL2. How do I know? Because we still have a little bit of temperature headroom. So we do this by clicking here, show all, go to advanced tuning, and let's put 130 watts monitoring, and let's start again. Let's see how the CPU behaves now. Now the temperatures should be a little higher because the CPU now is drawing more power, is demanding more power. More work means more heat. You remember, if you run faster, you will sweat more because your body temperatures get higher. Same principle. Okay, we haven't. Oh yeah, now we have throttled, but it was a little spike. 18,920. Good score. Remember, OBS screen recording is on. Let's actually see if we have any background program running. We have this killer network service. I'm sorry guys for yawning. I'm just so exhausted. Okay, let's kick the killer software application, which I have never used. Text input, killer APS. I believe this is for the Wi-Fi, but it only requires 5 megabytes of memory, so doesn't really do anything. Okay, it is what it is. Close and run again. Power limit throttling. Now what we can actually do is we can try to lower our voltage offset even more. Maybe to 148, 180, 148-ish. Let's see how the CPU behaves then. This run looks good. It hasn't throttled once. 18,926. Let's try to lower our voltage offset. Let's go to 150. And as you remember, if you change it here on your main CPU core voltage, you have to change it on the other ones as well, as the cache, your graphics, even though you don't use it, even though you're using your NVIDIA card, just undervolt your Iris graphics chip too. It can only have benefits. Okay, good. Clicked apply and everything was fine. Let's go to the monitoring mode and let's start our benchmark again. Now we have a core voltage offset of minus 150 and 130 watts of power draw. Core frequency is almost at 4.4. Okay. Looks good. I believe 19,000-ish. 18,828. Okay. So I believe we have tried this too many times. Let's go to the next, which one is benchmarking. Let's run our XTU2 benchmark. Let's see what score we get. 6,707. So the next one is profiles. These are your saved profiles. A profile pairing. You can assign your saved profiles with any given hotkey combination of your desire. Okay, that's it guys. I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions regarding this app or anything in general, leave a comment and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye.